And I knew a bit about her. I knew how she grew up. I knew that she kind of was one of these people. What tends to be the case is that when you grow up with everything, you create things out of nothing because you're looking for struggle in your life because it's satire, right? He's arguing that, satire, and it is, satire is protected speech, and that when he assumed this nice pool character, oh, well, you got hurt feelings, but it does not rise to an actual defamation.
Blake Lively is reportedly in panic mode after Candace Owens hit her with a staggering $100 million lawsuit. Rumors claim Owens has solid evidence showing Blake twisted the truth and manipulated deals behind the scenes, all while maintaining her trademark smile in public. Now, with what insiders describe as the most daunting legal challenge of her career, Blake is scrambling to keep the situation under wraps, fearing the fallout could damage both her image and professional standing.
So what kind of a monster even goes through with this CRD filing and doesn't include the proper context of these things? Like, he showed me a pornographic video on the phone.
With every piece of evidence Candace Owens claims to hold, the carefully crafted image of Blake Lively is starting to unravel, exposing someone described as calculating, controlling, and relentlessly determined to get her way. If Owens succeeds, Blake may not be able to escape the fallout. Public reaction has been explosive. Fans are furious, voicing their disgust and disappointment, saying they feel completely betrayed. Online outrage continues to surge, with many insisting this scandal reveals that Blake may not be the sweet, innocent starlet she has long portrayed herself to be.
I would not have said, quote unquote, hurt feelings and saying, they're basically bullying him again in the lawsuit. And I'm going, guys, that...
Viewers are now casting Blake Lively as the ultimate villain in this unfolding drama, demanding a direct apology, something along the lines of, "I'm sorry I lied, and I've behaved terribly." Fans believe she completely unraveled after being hit with the court filing, and many say it feels like she's once again trying to bully her way through by firing back with another lawsuit. Reports suggest Blake is in full panic mode as Candace Owens' legal action highlights her self-absorbed behavior, and the situation appears to be spiraling further out of control.
If they lose in the real court, obviously they're going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars that are at stake, but also in the court of public opinion, hundreds of millions of dollars are at stake. And so this filing to dismiss is essentially him saying nah, boo-boo on the defamation.
Many now believe Ryan Reynolds is on the verge of facing even tougher defamation charges, as his fragile legal defense collapses and leaves both him and Blake Lively dangerously exposed. Blake's public image is in freefall, her once solid Hollywood reputation crumbling in real time. For someone who once carried herself like the industry was her personal kingdom, flipping her blonde hair with queen bee confidence and ruling over a tight-knit clique, the humiliation cuts deep. Then March 2025 struck like a speeding truck, smashing straight into her carefully built empire.
For this on my show, totally understandable legal maneuver. Of course, you're going to try to get your clients dismissed from a lawsuit. So we're seeing that from Leslie Sloan. We're seeing that.
It became increasingly clear that Blake Lively was the main aggressor in this unfolding showdown, as one revelation followed another. First came Justin Baldoni's counter-lawsuit. Then Brian Friedman dropped a staggering 170 pages of texts and evidence online, fueling doubts that had already begun when the Times exposed cracks in Blake's carefully crafted, nice girl persona. Many fans had long suspected something wasn't right, and comparisons to Taylor Swift's guarded image only added to the skepticism. Justin Baldoni's social media presence, which radiates genuine kindness, made it even harder for people to believe he was the villain. Eventually, Candace Owens reached her breaking point, accusing Blake of relentless manipulation and finally filing a lawsuit, loud, public, and impossible to ignore.
I would not have said, quote unquote, hurt feelings and saying they're basically bullying him again in the lawsuit. And I'm going, guys, that's not good. Don't do that. This is not a great way to argue, especially because they've got you on this.
Oh no, Blake roared back, flipping Hollywood's script upside down. For years, she seemed convinced she could control any storyline, flashing that practiced smile on the red carpet while secretly pulling strings behind the scenes. Raised with privilege, Blake may have believed she could stir up drama whenever boredom struck, always assured she'd get her way. But now, with Candace Owens coming after her through the courts, reality has hit hard. Reports claim Blake spiraled, screaming, crying, throwing things, and lashing out like a spoiled star suddenly forced to confront the truth. She's not the universe's center.
There's 5 other claims. He's got extortion, he's got false light, and everything immediately falls apart there. But I'm saying
When Brian Friedman dropped undeniable proof, it shattered the fantasy world Blake Lively had worked so hard to create. For years, she polished the image of the perfect wife, devoted mother, and flawless star, but all it took was Candace Owens stepping into court with hard evidence to unravel that carefully built illusion. The fallout has been both shocking and, to some, darkly ironic, as the chaos spills into Hollywood's financial bloodstream. Massive money issues are now on the line. Careers dangle by a thread, reputations crumble, and legal bills soar. Trust in these high-profile figures is vanishing at record speed, all because Blake couldn't rein in her explosive tantrums or abandon her obsessive need to control everything and everyone around her. From studios to PR agencies, no corner of Hollywood has been spared from the storm she unleashed.
he's basically saying, well, I didn't receive any money. And it's like, buddy, extortion is a lot bigger than that. You made threats to go public with harassment claims.
The public is devouring this drama like it's the juiciest reality show of the year, fueled by the fact that many fans already can't stand Blake. Enter her supposed knight in shining armor, Ryan Reynolds, the man scrambling to disappear from Justin Baldoni's lawsuit like a magician botching a cheap trick. By March 2025, Ryan tried to excuse himself from the case, portraying his role as nothing more than a helpless husband watching his wife wreak havoc. But the claim is laughable, considering he was the one gleefully spreading gossip and labeling Baldoni a harasser at Hollywood's social gathering.
That they have definitely met, I would say, the preliminary standard to go through.
Ryan told the court his comments were nothing more than opinion or comedy, but that defense doesn't hold up. Labeling someone a harasser in front of the press is hardly a playful joke. With allegations of coercion, false light, and more piled against him, it's difficult to see the judge letting him walk free. Ryan also tried to dismiss extortion claims by insisting he never took any money, yet critics quickly noted extortion isn't about cash. It's the threats that truly matter.
And my guess is when we get to that discovery, there's going to be a lot stronger defamation claims.
Leaked evidence suggests Ryan allegedly threatened to spread false claims in order to help Blake seize control of a shared project. Fans are buzzing over Ryan's private texts with Hugh Jackman, messages he clearly doesn't want exposed. The speculation is wild, with many wondering just how much trash talk Ryan may have unleashed about Justin behind the scenes if those conversations ever surface.
You know, if Hugh Jackman, anyone getting deposed who's got to make arrangements for it, if they have to get their own lawyers or whatever it is, and here's Ryan, should be looking.
Legal insiders predict the defamation charges against Ryan Reynolds are about to explode, especially if his private messages become evidence. Attorney Brian Friedman, leading the case, isn't holding back, accusing Ryan of actively helping sabotage Justin Baldoni's career and presenting his arguments with the precision of a championship debater. If Ryan ends up dragging others, like Hugh Jackman, into depositions, it could snowball into endless legal fees and scheduling chaos. Yet the spotlight inevitably shifts back to the saga's central villain, Blake Lively. Online, her reputation has collapsed, with fans branding her as spoiled, entitled tyrant whose facade has completely crumbled.
To imagine the text messages between him and Hugh Jackman as they're putting together all of these scenes. I mean, it's
Candace Owens didn't hold back in the court filings, painting Blake Lively as someone who's never lifted a finger yet leaves chaos in her wake. With a privileged upbringing, a glittering Hollywood career, and a circle of A-list allies, Blake allegedly concocted a ruthless plan to destroy reputations and lives the moment she sensed her power threatened, exposing a darker side hidden behind her polished public image.
They're losing here, and these people have to be furious. I mean, they're all going to have to pay for the associate.
Candace Owens didn't hold back, branding Blake Lively as an insecure troublemaker who thrives on constant drama. The lawsuit details how Blake allegedly weaponized the media to tear others down, even using a flashy New York Times feature as her personal tool, conveniently omitting key facts while framing Justin Baldoni as the true villain in her narrative.
But boy, I mean, it's just like, it's kind of embarrassing, right?
The media long painted Blake Lively as a misunderstood angel, but Candace Owens wasn't fooled. She called out the lies, insisting Blake's sweet actress persona was nothing more than a carefully crafted mask. Now Candace is demanding accountability, both in public and in court, for the chaos Blake has allegedly caused. Fans, meanwhile, are eating up the spectacle, thrilled to watch someone finally challenge her glossy facade. For years, whispers claimed Blake smiled for the cameras while secretly pulling strings and quietly dismantling reputations behind the scenes.
You know, I can understand, okay, maybe he really truly believed it. Many people were deluded by her New York Times expose and they read through the CRD complaint, not even knowing the differences between what a CRD complaint and a real actual lawsuit is.
Candace Owens didn't hold back. She slapped Blake Lively with a lawsuit that obliterated the star's carefully polished PR image. Reports of Blake's massive meltdown became the final nail in the coffin, turning the saga into must-watch drama even juicier than a scripted series. Viewers can't get enough as lawsuits stack up, Blake's reputation lies in tatters, and fans rage against the persona she once sold so flawlessly. Critics say all of this is a storm she essentially created herself. Even her own family has tried to distance from the fallout. Blake's brother-in-law quickly backpedaled, admitting he shouldn't have said what he did. Ryan Reynolds, however, has been less convincing. In court, he attempted to wash his hands of the chaos, insisting he played no role. Fans aren't buying it, especially since Ryan openly trashed Justin Baldoni at high-profile events, practically shouting it from rooftops. To then claim in court it was mere comedic commentary rang hollow. No one's laughing at intimidation, name-calling, and calculated attacks meant to damage another person's reputation.
And I've always had an intuition about Taylor Swift and like the branding of the nice girl stuff. And something just didn't, I went through Justin Baldoni's Instagram.
The judge wasn't buying Ryan's excuse, tossing it out completely as receipts piled up, extortion, defamation, and more. How can he still pretend to be innocent when leaked texts reveal just how deeply he was involved behind the scenes? The messages paint a picture of Ryan co-writing scenes, flexing influence with studio heads, and pulling manipulative moves to keep control. Some insiders claim Blake pushed him into it, expecting Ryan to storm into production offices and demand everyone bend to her will.
I read it just didn't add up to me that this guy was secretly just dying to talk about pornography all the time and talk about his porn addiction and wanted her to look at pornography. I'm going, this is not the Instagram feed
Rumors suggest Blake pressured Ryan to put on an intimidating display before top executives, acting like he was untouchable, and he caved, reduced to a puppet on her strings. Pathetic as it seems, the drama didn't stop there. The extortion allegations grew darker when Sony officials reportedly confirmed Blake and Ryan's camp threatened to pull out of the film entirely, a move that would have cost the studio millions in reshoots. It was a power play designed to corner executives into submission.
This is not what Brandon Sklenar is doing. He basically probably likely got signed by WME, which was quite recent because of the connections with Blake Lively. They obviously kind of rolled.
These are massive productions with enormous budgets and teams at stake. Yet rumors swirl that Blake went as far as invoking Taylor Swift's name to get a composer replaced. Allegedly, she told executives they wouldn't get access to Taylor's music unless her demands were met, a move critics say wasn't negotiation but outright bullying. Candace Owens reportedly saw through the act, calling it manipulative and close to blackmail. Attorney Brian Fredman's evidence supports this, pointing to threats Blake used to pressure studios and sabotage careers. Behind the polished Hollywood image, she appears to be the true puppet master pulling every string.
If you immediately backpedal and say, you know what, I shouldn't have said what I said. And that's actually what Blake Lively's brother-in-law did.
The cracks in Blake Lively's polished public image didn't just appear. They shattered almost overnight. And the person swinging the hammer was none other than Candace Owens. For years, Blake built her brand around a flawless persona, the sweet, girl-next-door starlet who could charm anyone in an interview, make motherhood look effortless, and seem eternally graceful on the red carpet. But when Owens unearthed a trove of receipts, text messages, phone records, and insider testimony, everything came crumbling down. What fans once saw as authentic suddenly looked like a meticulously engineered illusion. crafted to hide ruthless ambition and an appetite for control. And the exposure didn't just ignite a legal battle, it triggered a cultural firestorm. What began inside the courtroom spilled into the streets of media warfare, with tabloids, glossy magazines, and endless social feeds bending narratives in real time to cast Blake as an innocent victim. The parallels were uncanny. Observers even compared the coverage to old-school propaganda campaigns designed to manipulate the masses. But this time, the target wasn't a political cause. It was the preservation of Blake's Hollywood throne at any cost. Adding fuel to the inferno was attorney Brian Friedman, who made a damning claim. Ryan Reynolds wasn't just a supportive husband caught in the crossfire, but the actual mastermind orchestrating smear campaigns against Justin Baldoni. According to Friedman, Blake handpicked Ryan to act as her attack dog, her chosen spokesperson in a war of reputations. Candace Owens echoed the accusation, insisting this wasn't some unfortunate accident. It was a calculated move. Blake deliberately deployed her husband as a weapon, and fans who once adored the couple's playful banter suddenly saw something darker, a manipulative wife pulling strings and a compliant husband doing her bidding. The illusion of the sweet, down-to-earth star was gone. What emerged instead was a portrait of a woman willing to scorch earth to protect her brand. Owens, however, didn't stop at Blake's tactics. She widened the lens, calling out the entire system that enabled them. Major outlets like the New York Times and Glamour, long accused of cozy relationships with Hollywood elites, published glowing pieces portraying Blake as the wronged victim. To Owens, this wasn't journalism. It was gaslighting, a weapon used by the entertainment elite to rewrite reality while systematically dismantling their chosen targets. Owens accused these publications of functioning as tools of a propaganda machine that elevated some stars while crushing others without mercy. The plan, she claimed, was clear. Destroy Baldoni's reputation in order to shield Blake and keep her untouchable. But when receipts landed in Owens's hands, the narrative shifted. Fans who barely followed celebrity drama suddenly found themselves questioning not only Blake's behavior, but the entire machinery of fame. The story was no longer about two actors clashing. It became a case study in how celebrities manipulate the press, audiences, and even personal relationships to maintain power. And then there was Ryan. If Blake's fall from grace was sharp, Ryan's stumble was humiliating. In court, his defense team argued that calling Baldoni a harasser was nothing more than a harmless joke, the kind of offhand humor people had come to expect from the Deadpool star. But the public wasn't buying it. To them, the excuse was paper-thin, a weak attempt to spin blatant bullying into comedy. What they saw instead was a powerful actor mocking another man in an industry already notorious for toxic behavior. Legal experts chuckled at the absurdity of the argument while fans expressed outright disgust. Worse still, whispers grew that Ryan was quietly looking for a way out of his marriage, unable or unwilling to carry the weight of Blake's scandal as it spiraled. Tied to her at every turn, he had gambled not only his public image, but perhaps his personal life, too. The backlash from fans was ferocious. Once celebrated as Hollywood's golden couple, Blake and Ryan suddenly found themselves drowning in criticism, their every move scrutinized. Social media, once their playground for quirky posts and lighthearted banter, became a minefield. Fans demanded accountability. Meme accounts mocked them relentlessly. And gossip outlets painted Ryan as either complicit or pathetic, a man dragged into a mess by his wife and too spineless to walk away. For someone who had built a career on quick wit and unshakable charisma, the role of humiliated husband was devastating. Blake's broader social world wasn't faring any better. The actress, who once flaunted her star-studded friendships as proof of her status, was now watching those same connections evaporate. Big names like Bradley Cooper, Hugh Jackman, and Sean Levy were said to be quietly backing away, unwilling to risk their own reputations. Even Taylor Swift, the ultimate bestie Blake never missed an opportunity to name-drop, has gone radio silent. Once touted as Blake's personal shield and confidant, Taylor is now dodging subpoenas and refusing to engage. Fans suspect Taylor wants nothing to do with the implosion, unwilling to have her own brand dragged into a scandal dripping with accusations of manipulation and villainy. For Blake, who once weaponized her friendships as social currency, the silence is damning. Studios, too, are paying a steep price. Sony, which bent over backward to meet Blake's demands, rewriting scripts, swapping composers, and handing her near-total creative authority, is now buried under legal fees, reshoot costs, and a mountain of terrible press. What was supposed to be a prestige project is now a financial and reputational nightmare. Owens even suggested that Blake's motivation stemmed from jealousy. While Scarlett Johansson was off earning acclaim for her directorial debut, Blake was desperate to prove she could do more than act. She wanted to outshine Scarlett, to seize control of It Ends With Us, and establish herself as the next Reese Witherspoon, a powerhouse actress-producer with cultural sway. But instead of crafting a legacy, Blake now finds herself facing a nuclear meltdown that threatens to erase her career entirely. Insiders whisper about a side of Blake most fans never saw. Not the Instagram perfect mother or charming talk show guest, but a control freak who micromanaged every detail, crushed colleagues who stood in her way, and chased influence with single-minded determination. The irony is sharp. Blake spent years constructing an untouchable persona, only to watch it implode under the weight of her own manipulations. The very control she craved is what's undoing her now. Candace Owens, meanwhile, is doubling down. She's not calling for quiet settlements or behind-the-scenes payouts. She wants public accountability. In her view, Blake and Ryan can't buy their way out of this scandal with hush money and carefully worded PR apologies. If Blake truly hopes to salvage her reputation, she must do the unthinkable, admit she lied, confess to her manipulations, and apologize to those she tried to destroy. Yet few believe she's capable of such humility. Her arrogance, critics argue, is the same quality that led her here in the first place. The media's turn has been equally brutal. Outlets that once showered Blake with glowing coverage are now publishing exposés, detailing her history of micromanagement, entitlement, and power-hungry behavior. The glossy magazine covers have been replaced with damning headlines. Tabloids that once praised her style now dissect her scandals. She wanted control over the narrative, but in the end, she created a meltdown so vast it erased any goodwill she once had. Fans who once idolized her are watching her downfall unfold in real time through social media rants, gossip blogs, and scandalous leaks. Now, Blake Lively isn't Hollywood's darling. She's its cautionary tale. The label once reserved for villains in old Hollywood gossip columns has been slapped onto her. Public enemy number one. Fans see not the beloved actress from Gossip Girl or the fashion icon they once adored, but a manipulative figure who treated people as pawns. She sought to become untouchable, but instead she lit a match that set her career ablaze. Ryan, once beloved for his humor, is now caught in the flames, with his defenses mocked and his reputation in freefall, and that's where the story stands today. Each day brings fresh leaks, new accusations, and further cracks in the once-perfect facade. What began as a lawsuit has spiraled into a cultural reckoning about the way celebrities wield power, manipulate narratives, and weaponize relationships. Fans are left angry, betrayed, and morbidly fascinated, watching Blake's empire collapse piece by piece. There will be no fairy tale ending, no graceful comeback, no neatly tied bow to wrap around the chaos. If there's a lesson here, it's simple. You can't treat people like pawns forever. The truth always surfaces, and when it does, both the internet and the courts are merciless. Blake Lively wanted to be remembered as Hollywood royalty. Instead, she's become its latest warning. When ambition turns to arrogance, the empire you build eventually crumbles under its own weight.